Hello everybody, I'm back with another video, another review video. Today we are discussing the seminal work Technomancer by B.V. Larson. I'm just kidding, it's not that book, no disrespect. We're actually discussing Pyromancer by Don Callender. It is, nope, Neuromancer. This is, forgive the joke, this is the actual book I'm talking about today. I've never heard of those other two books. Again, no disrespect, but I haven't read them. I have read Neuromancer by William Gibson. And forgive the sound quality. I am testing out a new mic. I just got it in. I got a tripod. I got a mic. I'm working with some new equipment, so I'm just seeing how it goes. I hope the sound quality improves. But yeah, I got 2 copies of this bad boy. I got this newer, I guess these are both aces. New ace, old ace. And I'll let you zoom in on that one a little bit. This is they're very similar in flavor, but as you know, as most of you know, the good old vintage copies are always better. Anyway, let's get into it. Neuromancer was the 3rd book that I read in my 25 book review challenge. It was, and still is, the hardest, most challenging book I've read, I think. Forgive me if I rescind that remark, in a future review. But of the 25 books that I read in that list, I gotta say this one takes the cake for being the one that I've come away with the most questions, the most just thoughts afterwards, where I ponder some of the things. It just, little worm buried itself somewhere back here and makes me think about this book. And before I go any further, I want everyone to know, if you're watching this video, you've either read of this or you've heard of it or you understand the significance of it, all that kind of stuff. I think I could do with a reread. I'm not saying that because I didn't enjoy it. I'm saying it because I think I missed some stuff. I think I wasn't able to fully appreciate the book for what it is, and what it did for science fiction at the time of reading it. Like I said, it was the 3rd book that I read in my 25 book challenge. And I should, I'll give you more context, just a little bit more context. I know you're here for Neuromancer, so bear with me. When I started reading these 25 books, I kind of picked at random, sort of. None of the 25 have the same repeat author. There's no repeat authors, so I was trying to dip my toe into different authors that I knew a lot of them had, big swings at the science fiction genre that connected it with a huge group of people, or with a smaller but more, dedicated group of people. Like, I picked the authors for different reasons, but I chose to have a few very foundational works to the genre, including Neuromancer. I wish I would have read this on the back end of the 25 instead of the very front end, because I think prior to this 25 book challenge, I didn't read a whole lot of science fiction. In fact, I wasn't a huge reader for a long time. Post college, I went to college for an English degree, so I read a lot during college, and after that, I went through a lot of life stuff that I wasn't reading for the last several years, and throwing myself back into reading, and pretty much just throwing myself back into science fiction itself. I didn't have the experience or the understanding to really digest a book like this. That lays the groundwork for what I'm about to share as far as my thoughts go. Um, I had a hard time with the reading experience. I am not alone in that. I know that there's plenty of you out there who probably felt the same way when you read this. It's very dense. At least that's the word I would use for it. It's dense. It's not it's not easy to read. It's not for the faint of heart to read. The content is uh, can be graphic. It can be very psychologically fuzzy, where it makes your mind kind of, I don't know, it sends your mind into a little bit of a frenzy trying to understand what's going on, but there's a visceral way that Gibson writes. His prose are so gritty and um, there it's all right there for you. You know, the metal, the neon, the rain, the cyberspace, there's just all these um, words. I'm having a hard excuse me. I'm having a hard time trying to describe Gibson's prose, and I think that that's a good thing because he's such a good writer. I have here, and I was going to talk about this at the end of the video essentially, but like I have a couple more copies. I have Burning Chrome. I have Count Zero, also from Gibson. And I'm pretty sure Count Zero is a part of the Sprawl trilogy. If I'm wrong, I think I might be wrong about that. Anyway, it's like Mona Lisa Overdrive and maybe Count Zero. I got several comments about this one and about how I should try Burning Chrome and Count Zero as well. And so I plan on reading those because I loved Gibson's writing style. I also simultaneously like hated it because at the time I didn't my reading stamina was not very high, and I know some people might be like, "What are you talking about?" But I was not used to sitting for long periods of time with text blocks like so. You know, small type. You know, some of the paragraphs spanning half the page. Excuse me. I was not used to that kind of reading. I wasn't used to reading in general. My mind was just kind of shut off from that way of thinking, and so um, I think that hindered my reading experience. Not a lot, but it was in my mind a lot where I would grow tired while reading it, and I didn't want to. You know, my mind would just kind of start to labor. My eyes would start to labor, and I would be wanting to know what was happening next, or be curious about the next chapter, but I just for whatever reason couldn't continue. So I think I took this book in bursts, and I just had a hard time with it. And initially I talked to a friend at work who has read this book, and he mentioned that if I remember right, you know, he had a challenging experience with it too, and so it made me feel better because I went into this thinking this is going to be like a game changer for me. I'm going to love this book. It's going to be my new, it just sounds cool. It looks cool. It is cool. Cyberpunk's cool, all this kind of stuff. And um, I was disheartened because I didn't love it like I thought I might. But hearing that other people had challenges with it, hearing that you know, it turns a certain type of reader off made me want to try it again. I don't know what that says about me as a reader or as somebody who enjoys science fiction, more vintage science fiction, but it makes me feel like it makes me feel good about my approach to the book, which is I want to know what Wilson was trying to Wilson, what Gibson, William Gibson, sorry, what he was trying to do with this book. Because one thing that was clear, whether I had a good time reading it or not, Gibson knew what he was doing. And I don't mean that to say it's some perfect book and he's just like high above every other writer. But he has, as I was saying before, trying to just terribly in a, I couldn't describe his prose. um, he just has a way with words. Forgive the lame, phrase there, but that's just the way. That's what That's how I feel about his writing. He has a way of moving the story along at such a brisk pace, but makes you feel like you're sitting next to Case as he's jacking into cyberspace. You feel like are you can visualize Molly and the kind of, like, is it cybernetic? Or is that the right term? Just the type of person, type of character that she's drawn up to be. Um, I just, from the get go, the bar scene at the very beginning, the almost heist like language that's used. This like, you know, speaking of that, I'm a big fan of like the Oceans 11, 12, and 13 movies. I think they're hilarious. I think they're dumb, but they're quirky in their own way. There's not really any movie like those movies. The heist vibe that I got from this was really cool because I think that's just fun. Um, and that's one thing I should note about Gibson is I think as layered and as deep and as I said, visceral and as chewy sometimes as his writing can be, it is fun reading him. The textures, the patterns, the world building that he creates is just beautiful, and it's scary beautiful. I think if I remember right, there's a line that everybody constantly quotes. It's the very first line of the book because it just sets the tone right off the bat, and it says, "The sky above the port was the color of television, tuned to a dead channel." If that doesn't tee up the book in a way that, if you haven't read it, I really encourage you to read it if that interests you at all, because it's like, um, I don't know, it really is just the foundation for what became cyberpunk. And I'm sure there's stuff that he drew from, uh, like cyberpunk in general. I think has become a huge term and subgenre of science fiction and whatnot. And so I think that sort of like, this was where it all started kind of like language and conversation kind of gets away from it because it doesn't need to be the origin point, but I can see where so much of what we know, uh, you know 30, 40, 50 years after this kind of stuff was written, um, we know that it a lot of its roots started with Neuromancer. um, I think the characters were had a lot of depth to them. Case was such um, a sad and lonely and relatable character. Not his drug use, not his, um, you know, not his goings on, going ons, goings on. I don't know, um, but I think he says something about the human experience. I loved how his motivation for, and hold on real quick, spoilers. Stop the video if you haven't read it. Um, his motivation at the beginning for even participating in this is they can put him back into cyberspace and he can, you know, jack in again, um, because they can give him like the antidote to his like life altering. What did they do? They like a company that he got in trouble with like severed his like spine, the neural pathway or something that puts him into cyberspace, I think. And so they like fix him, but on the condition that he participates in this like espionage work with them, where he's gonna like help them navigate cyberspace and all. It just, that motivation felt real. It felt legit. It felt like something that a super espionage story would have, like it, that kind of behavior where it's leverage and blackmail, and that, I liked that. And it wasn't even like explicitly written out as like we are blackmailing you. As far as I remember, it was like there was just so much inference that you had to make as a reader, because Gibson just takes you on this torrential torrential's not the right word. He takes you on this roller coaster that just never stops. Um, you know, the back of this says, the back of the vintage copy, it says Case was the best interface cowboy who ever ran in Earth's computer matrix. Then he double crossed the wrong people. Like, that just sounds so badass. He's an interface cowboy in the Matrix who, you know, some people tried, he pissed off the wrong people. Like, I think I forget so much of this book because of how densely packed it was, but I remember the way it made me feel. And those of you out there that have read this and it's been a while, I think you'll kind of empathize with that, because I couldn't tell you a lot of the story beats, the big, huge moments, partially, again, because I was like kind of confused at what was going on at times. I was so taken aback by how dense the writing and world building was that I it grew tiring after a while sometimes. But again, I remember it more fondly the more that I think about it. And I don't know why. It's not. I don't have really any other books that I have read like that where excuse me, where my first reading experience was mixed, and then not even reading it again, I think about it constantly and I go, oh, that was better than I remember, for no apparent reason other than it's stuck up here somewhere and I think about it and it draws me in. Um, and so I I know this is kind of a bunch of word salad to tell you that I wasn't sure about it my first read through, but I shot a video of this. It was barely over 10 minutes talking about this book, and it didn't feel like I expressed my thoughts in a way that did justice to this book, because this book really is a special book. I know it. I mean, I have read it, but I just feel something about it that makes me want to go back to it again. It makes me it makes me want to read, you know, short stories, Burning Chrome short stories. It does say up at the top, I should have known. I'm an idiot. Neuromancer trilogy. So somebody's gonna have to tell me in the comments. Okay. Also by William Gibson. Neuromancer, Mona Lisa Overdrive, Burning Chrome. So this must be book three. And I've gotten comments, or I've at least read maybe other people's comments in other videos that have talked about Count Zero being a much easier read. Um, Maybe much is a strong word. It's an easier read. Burning Chrome as well looks. It just, gosh, that title. He just has a way of making you feel that feeling that he wants you to feel. Oh man, I feel like I've been kind of all over in this video, trying to collect my thoughts about this book. It's been months since I've read it, so I kind of I wanted to do this video to cover this, to let you know what I thought of it on my first read, but then to have some established, here's what I thought of it, and then do a reread at some point, and then to revisit it and talk about it again. So before any more time passes, I want to get this video out. I want you to understand where I'm coming from, and yeah, I'll have some more updates as far as William Gibson goes, because he this was a cool book, and one that I think will blow me away in the second reading. I have, while I'm sitting here, I have Zero History and All Tomorrow's Parties also over on that shelf. So if any Gibson books that you know of are particular favorites, whether it be this one or whether it be one of the other ones I've talked about or another one that I don't own, please let me know. This is one of the reviews that I was most looking forward to doing because of how much I've thought about this book since I read it. It's one of two books that have stayed with me to a point where I'm like positive that they will become like rereads throughout my life. Like I will go back to these books because of the way they made me feel. There are plenty of other books in the top 25 list, or top 25, the reading challenge, the top 25 reading challenge that I did, that were great books. Maybe ones that I'll reread in the future. But this book and Downward to the Earth, I don't know if you can see that. It's an old hardback that I found. Downward to the Earth. These two books made me feel something deeper that no book has done for a long, long time. And actually, I'm not covering Downward to the Earth on this 25 book reading challenge, but I will at some point, just similar to this one. I'll reread it and I'll just share my thoughts because these are two books that I know for a fact. Well, I was about to say that everybody should read. Neuromancer is one that I don't think everybody will love. I do think Downward to the Earth, everybody can find something in this book. That's another video. But all in all, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you have some thoughts that you can share with me about Neuromancer because I would love to hear more in this conversation. Since I shot that last video that I said I didn't post, it was like a 10-minute review that just didn't feel like I did this justice. I went back and watched several more videos of other people talking about Neuromancer, and I don't know. It might be soon that I reread this because this was such a good book, but one that I am eager to understand more about. So I'll stop repeating myself. Please talk to me down in the comments. I'm losing my voice. I just went on vacation, just got back, so I'm worn out. But I wanted to share this video with you so we could start this dialogue because I know I will get at least for those of you that comment, I will get thoughts. Good, bad, you'll call me an idiot for not loving it first read, all that kind of stuff. So with that, that was Pyromancer. Forget the bad joke. I'm still trying to keep that going. That was Neuromancer, book 3 of the 25 book reading challenge that I did. I think next up I'm going to post a Jack Vance. That was Jack Vance was number 4, I think, that I read. So be on the lookout for that. But anyway, that should do it for this video. Let me know down below what you thought of my new audio. It might not have changed at all. I have a little mic that's sitting next to me on like my dresser. So if it picked up audio better, great. If it didn't, I can pin it to my shirt. We can try that. I don't know. I just want to give you guys the best content possible. So, gosh, I say that and then I cough into the mic. With that, I'll be done. I'll talk to you later. And thanks for watching.